Good day, everyone. My name is Jan Simmerink. I'm with First Technic North America, which is a subsidiary of the German company First Technic. The First Technic company has been the global pioneer of calf feeding since 1971. We stand for healthy growth of animals and for profitability for farm operations. General technical innovations are continually integrated in our products for easier work and more information on higher performing animals. We offer a complete program of solutions for each phase of the rearing process for calves that optimally support their development. From the day one in single pens, labor saving from milkmobiles to the fully automatic calf reel are offered. In the group phase, the animal will be fed multiple times a day to create a big and strong calf. With the automatic calf feeders, automatic calf feeders allow calves to drink higher amounts whenever they want and thus act out their natural drinking behavior. A specific focus is set to hygiene with our hygiene boxes, with fully automatic cleaning of all components, including hoses, nipples, valves, with alkaline and acid detergents. We can feed between 5 and 100 calves per feeder. We have dealers around the world and also provide on-farm management training for our feeders. The result is a well-growing, healthy animal that grows into a high-performing and long-living dairy cow. Automatic concentrate feeders help each individual calf transition optimally to rumination. With growing interest in animal welfare, group housing and self-determined feed intake for calves are becoming more and more popular. Feel free to contact us anytime. And now I'd like to introduce Kendra Keels. She will be talking about maximizing the value of male dairy calves. I've known Kendra for a long time. We both are involved in the veal industry and work together for several years. Kendra has been involved in many aspects of improving calf care and veal production, with a focus on welfare. Today, she will be highlighting some of the key points in improving the maximizing return for male dairy calves. Kendra?
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kendra Keels, and I am the Industry Development Director with Veal Farmers of Ontario. And today I'm going to talk about maximizing the value of male dairy calves. Before we start, I'm just going to go over a little bit of terminology so that everybody knows we're all on the same page of when I refer to these. Veal cattle are all cattle in veal production. Veal is the meat for veal cattle. Calf was from birth up to 6 months of age. Dairy beef finished at a live weight around 1,500 pounds. Bob calf, a male calf that will be raised as veal or dairy beef. Weaning, switching a calf from milk to solid feed. Grain-fed veal, veal cattle that eat grain once they are no longer fed milk. And milk-fed veal, cattle that are fed milk for their whole production period. So what's changed in the veal industry? Lots, especially with COVID-19. Our restaurant sector has seen a decline, so we're not able to ship as much veal for the restaurant industry. But you know, even before COVID-19, our sector was going through a period of a downturn. From our peak production time, Ontario and Quebec have seen a reduction in about 32%. We have a lack of slaughter capacity in Eastern Canada. Last year, we lost our only federal plant for veal, riding Regency. And there's a concern for the quality of male dairy calves. There was a report by the National Farm Animal Health and Welfare Council on the marketing of male dairy calves. So that has really brought to light the issue of male calves. 50% of the offspring that are born are male calves, and we call them bob calves. As a dairy farmer, you need the milk, so you need to breed the cows, but then you get 50% are male. So what do you do with the males? You have some options. They could be sold into the veal market. They could be sold for dairy beef, finished as dairy beef, or some people start the calves, we call them precons, and then they could go on to veal or dairy beef. There are two types of veal. There's milk-fed veal and grain-fed veal. Milk-fed veal is marketed at around 5 months of age, and they dress around 280 pounds or 123 kilos, where grain-fed veal is marketed at approximately 8 months of age and dresses around 419 pounds or 190 kilos. Veal is defined after harvest and it must stress less than 190 kilos, but it doesn't specify if it's milk-fed or grain-fed. Milk-fed veal cattle are fed milk replacer through their whole growing period. They're never weaned off of milk. They consume about 300 kilos of milk replacer and between 50 and 200 kilos of fiber. Grain-fed veal are fed a commercial milk replacer or whole milk until they are around 7 to 8 weeks of age. Then they're transitioned to grain. For grain-fed veal, they will consume about 25 kilos of milk replacer, 25 kilos of calf starter, 250 kilos of supplement, and 750 kilos of corn. Grain-fed veal is actually unique to Canada. They're raised in groups similar to beef production, but we don't dehorn and we don't castrate, and they will yield about 54.5%. Dairy beef, on the other hand, is dehorned and castrated, and there's demand for the beef breeds like Black Angus, and Belgian Blues always bring a premium. They will dress around 900 pounds on the rail, and the Holsteins will yield about 58%. The beef crosses around 1,000 pounds, and they'll yield around 59%. Each week in the veal industry, we do a market report, and it can be available on our website, vealfarmers.ca. Our members have it emailed directly to them, and that's the current male dairy price. So if you're wondering what bobcalves are going for, we have a wide range of pricing from different sale barns as well as Quebec, and it also has what the price for grain-fed veal is. One thing I always like to caution people, if you're worried about what you're getting for your bobcalves, is kind of fast forward to what the market for shipping is in 7 to 8 months, because if those calves that you're selling now are going to be ready for the Easter market, then the prices might be a little softer than if they're going to be ready from September to December. We do keep track of the bobcalf prices. The green line is 2020, as you can see, where the peaks and valleys, and as I mentioned, that will coincide to what time of the year that they're going to be ready. Here we have a price comparison of that 7 months previous to see as bobcalf prices went up, that's when we should be having our strongest pricing, which is from August to December. So the veal welfare definition is an animal in a good state of welfare, as indicated by scientific evidence, is healthy, comfortable, well-nourished, safe, able to express innate behavior, and it is not suffering from unpleasant states such as pain, fear, and distress. I say that because that's some of the challenges that we have with the male dairy calves, is because we don't know what their immune status is. They could have a naive immune status because we don't know if they've received enough colostrum. So the life of a calf, they get picked up, they're sold either right from the dairy farm to a finished barn, to a finished veal farm, or they go to a sale barn or an assembly yard. And the dairy farmers, you really don't know what the final destination is, and they're always being regrouped. So that's a stress on the calves. The transport, with the stress of transport and the young age and not knowing the immune status, all of that reduces immunity, and all that with a weak immune system could make them more susceptible to disease. So some of our industry issues that we've had and could possibly have again is that some of the sales stopped taking calves less than 90 pounds, and some sales stopped selling the male dairy calves altogether because they weren't selling. So then we ended up having some on-farm euthanasia. So why the 90 pounds is really important is because for us in the veal industry, we are really trying to reduce the amount of antibiotics we use. We are receiving a lot of pressure to reduce category 1 drugs because those are medically important to human health, and the issue with antimicrobial resistance for humans. It's not easy to start with calves that are a little weaker, so we really need to start with healthier, stronger calves. We have to reduce the risks. We need to make sure that those calves have their colostrum, they're over 90 pounds. And it's also, were the calves treated before they left the dairy farm, and what were they treated with? We need to watch out for dehydration. We want to make sure those navels are dry and healed. We want to have early disease detection for those animals. We want to make sure that they have the cleanest feeding utensils and bedding as possible. And when in doubt, we need to take the temperature of the calf. How many people know what the normal temperature of a calf is? 38.5. That's right. You should know that. That should be off the top of everybody's head. So when in doubt, take the temperature of the calf. Navels are really important to the health and well-being of those calves. A University of Guelph study found that 26% of male calves had significantly enlarged navels with heat, pain, moisture, malodorous discharge when examined at a veal facility. Research shows that calves with navel infections have a greater risk of dying and lower growth rates. We cannot stress the importance of having a dry, healed navel. Those calves must be clean and well bedded and dry bedding. Last year, we completed the Ontario Calf Health Improvement Program. We received money from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture and Food and Rural Affairs to develop dairy calf education for bovine veterinarians. The goal was improving the health and welfare of dairy calves. We developed resources and workshops, and we updated some of our calf care resources, and we started a vet-only portal for protocols to get veterinarians to include calves in their herd healths. Some of the protocols that were developed were bovine respiratory disease and pneumonia treatments, calf vaccine, cleaning and biosecurity, diarrhea treatment, dry cow vaccine, euthanasia, and a naval checklist. One of the examples of the protocol was a kind of a scoring way to they score based on what the issue is: cough, discharge from the eyes, the nose, the ear position, breathing, and rectal temperature. And depending on what that score was, would determine if the calf gets a treatment. So a calf should be treated with an antimicrobial if it scores greater than 5. So here's an example that your vet could work with you to develop. It was prepared for the name of your farm, who prepared at the clinic, the date, and what some of the detections were, and that it scored greater than 5. And then here's an example of a template. I don't have any drugs listed or anything like that. So it's give blank ml of blank by blank. So your vet can fill all that in for you. And then if no improvements are noted in 48 hours, please contact. This really helps so that producers have a resource that they know what to do. So here's your drugs 1, 2, and 3. This is what you need to do if it's the same as other things. So, but I can't stress enough the importance of getting your veterinarian involved with developing these protocols. We have the templates on the vet-only portal so that they can download and they can customize so that we can give you more resources to help improve the health and welfare of the calves. Calf feeding, gone are the days of feeding 2 liters per feeding. You need to make sure that those calves are getting 4 liters of feeding at 150 grams a liter of milk replacer. And it needs to be fed at body temperature, which remember was 38.5 to 39. Never tube milk. And the cows that are housed outside, they need to get more milk. It's really hard for calves to grow if they're cold. So they can't do both, stay warm and grow, if they're not receiving enough energy. Outside calves should have calf jackets. It improves the overall health and welfare of the calves. Bedding, it's imperative to have preventative measures in place. A clean maternity pen area, clean and dry. 3 to 4 inches of shavings with 12 inches of straw on top. If in doubt, if you don't have enough bedding, do the kneel test. If your knees come up wet, if you're in doubt, add more straw. You can never have too much. In 2017, we finalized across through the Canadian Veal Association the care and handling of veal cattle. This was a great advancement for our veal industry. It is our industry standard. It is science-based, and it also includes calves that are being started for the dairy beef market. In the code of practice, at the end of this year, for calves being raised on veal farms, group housing must take place as young as possible and not later than 8 weeks of age. Tethering of calves is prohibited, and I'll just say it again, this is for calves that are raised on a veal farm. and they must have access to an area outside of the hutch. You can see with the penning here that they have that area outside. In February of this year, under the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, there was an updated health of animals on the transport of animals that came out regarding, and male dairy calves or calves were included in this report because it really affected the age at which they could go to a sale barn, and it also the amount of hours that calves could travel. So that for us, there was calves that could only travel less than 12 hours from the time of their first feeding. Just before the new regulations came into effect, there was a report through the National Farm Animal Health and Welfare on the marketing of male dairy calves, and it really highlighted some of the challenges that we have in Canada with geography and getting calves from dairy farms to veal farms under that 12 hours. So because of all of that, we have a working group formed with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and we have some ongoing calf research that's going both in Ontario and Quebec, because there was no research. It didn't exist about calves and transportation times. So we hope by next year we'll have some of that information that we can share. As I mentioned, with the new transportation regulations, calves leaving the dairy farm, and if they're going to a sale barn, they have to be greater than 8 days of age, and they have to be transported from the last time they were fed to their final destination under 12 hours. They are considered unfit if they have a wet navel, and they can only be transported to receive veterinary care. They're considered compromised. If they are considered compromised, they have to be isolated from other animals, loaded individually, and transported for, they can be transported for kill or to receive care, but they cannot go to any assembly yards. All of the changes in the regulation we formed into this resource, which is available on our calfcare.ca website. We've had it in our magazine, The Connection, and I believe it was in the Milk Producer as well. And we have a list kind of all of what is considered unfit. And I just highlighted here an unhealed or infected navel. But one thing I just wanted to point out was exhibit signs of dehydration. Anybody who knows anything about calves, it doesn't take much for a young calf to become dehydrated. So you really want to make sure that you look at those calves well before they leave the farm. You know, when you're marketing your male dairy calves, and that's what you're doing, you're selling them, you want to focus on the quality of the calves that you're sending, because that is actually something that you can control. You can control the quality of the animals that you send. You want to communicate with your sales barn or your drover. You want to follow market pricing. What's the market 8 months from when you're selling the calf? Then it's going to give you kind of an idea of what you're going to get. Is the calf fit to ship? If the calf needs to stay on the farm longer, do you have to put infrastructure in place to give that flexibility to do that? So perhaps you have a set of twins that are born, they're 75 pounds. They need to stay on the farm a little bit longer to get them a little stronger. And I strongly encourage that you work with licensed dealers to make sure that you're protected under the Ontario Beef Cattle Financial Protection Program. People coming around write checks. If they're bad, you might not get compensated. So just make sure you're working with licensed dealers. So some of the things that we need to think about is the sex, semen, and genomics. We want to make it feasible to guarantee top calves have heifer calves, but maybe you could think about doing some sex semen for beef crosses, and you could choose a male calf to get those animals that are going to go to the veal industry is what I'm trying to say. What about the future? Supply and demand. You know, over the last year, there's been a lot of farms that have been breeding their animals to Black Angus and Belgian Blue because they were getting a premium. But how long will that last for, those premiums, if the supply is so great, it'll actually wean the price down? So it's just something to think about. So if you're not getting what you think you should be getting for your male dairy calves, you should ask yourself the following questions. When you ship the calf, is it healthy? Is it bright, alert? Is it well hydrated? Does the calf have a normal temperature? Was the calf fed colostrum at birth? Feed 4 liters within 6 hours of birth. First feeding should be as soon as possible, and all calves should be treated the same on the farm regardless of sex. Is the calf over 90 pounds? We want strong, healthy calves in the veal or even calves being started for the dairy beef market. We want to make sure that they're standing and walking on all four legs. Does the calf have a dry, healed navel? If the navel is unhealed, the calf is unfit and can't leave the farm unless to receive care by a veterinarian. So it's really important that you have a look at that navel to make sure that it is dry and healed. If the calf has scours, do not ship the calf. The stress on the calves of the truck ride and commingling, it's really hard. And when they're already scouring, they can quickly dehydrate and go downhill. I'm not saying all calves should be treated, but if necessary, if you do treat, if necessary, you need to observe the meat withdrawal because you don't know where that calf's going to end up when it leaves your farm. So as I mentioned, the health of animals with the regulation is the calf 8 days or older. If yes, they can go to a sales barn or an assembly center, but if not, it is prohibited from going anywhere to a sale barn or an assembly center. And we do recommend, if possible, to send the birth and when the time the calf was last fed with the calves. It just helps us with our information on the veal farm for when we get calves to start them. So when was the last time the calf was fed? Is the calf in good body condition? And does the calf have a full abdomen? There's research to support calves that have those empty abdomens, and the ones that look really sunk in, that they actually will have a higher sickness rate than calves that are well fed before they make their trip. And not a regulation for us in the veal industry, but we ask that they have an ear tag with an RFID approved beef ear tag, but we ask that it's in the right ear. And we say the right ear because if they're going to go onto machines, then we don't have any conflict with the reading of the tags. And so all of that information we've put into this resource, Maximizing the Value of Male Dairy Calves. It's available on our website. It was included in the magazines. So, and if you want us to send you a copy, we're happy to do so. It's just a nice little checklist to make sure that you've done everything that you can to make sure that you get the top dollar for the market for those calves. We also have developed this resource on assessing calf health, and it's kind of that checklist of, nose to tail, what to look for on appetite, manure, posture and demeanor, ears, nose, coat, navel, and check their hydration, rectal temperature, and breathing. We try to develop as many resources as we can to give you the tools to do the best job to improve the health and welfare of the calves. We've developed a lot of resources. We have them in print on our website, on Facebook. We have on Facebook we have our Calf Care Corner, and we invite everybody to follow us on our journey of improving the health and welfare of all calves. We have articles in the Milk Producer, and we do a monthly e-blast of Calf Care Corner, which is free to sign up. Anybody can sign up. It doesn't matter where you are, because I know we have a lot of people joining us from around the world for our Healthy Calf Conference. Thank you. Calf Care, www.calfcare.ca is our website where you can find those resources. And just a little bit about some of the initiatives that we do. As we create more opportunities to grow the demand for Ontario veal and address issues with processing, our farmers will feel the effects of a more stabilized market. I just want to remind everybody involved in the dairy and the veal industry, we're all in this together and we're all working to strengthen our markets. So if everybody does their part and does the best job that they can do, it will be a benefit to all of us. The one thing that we know about this industry, it has changed and we all need to change with it. And just when you think you have everything figured out, it changes. Thank you very much. I am available at the Veal Farmer of Ontario's office by email. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We're happy to answer any questions or any resources you might need. And if you are here in Ontario in December, you will be receiving a special mailing if you get the Milk Producer or the Connection by Veal Farmers of Ontario. Stay tuned. Thank you.